Namaskar. Hello everyone. RVD here. A very warm welcome to my channel. And we are here for the next video of my playlist Programming in C Sharp. It's going to be video 4, which will be on literals. And I've divided literals into multiple parts. So this will be the first part where we'll try to understand about literals, and we'll take up some parts or some types of literals in this video. So what is a literal? See, in the previous video we had seen the concept of variable, and we had seen a variable is nothing but something that can change the value over the time. On the other hand, the literal is something, or it's a token which always represents a fixed value. Okay, they are also called as constants or literals. Now we can have two types of literals, that is existing constants or user defined constants. So existing constant is something which is available and we'll be able to use it directly, and user defined constant is something that we can create as per need. For example, a pi value that we use in mathematics or in geometry. So that pi is not an existing constant, rather it's a user defined constant. Now currently this particular video will be focusing more on different types of existing constants. So what are the existing constants which are more clearly called as literals? So what are the literals, what are the different types of literals, and so on. Okay, so let us go ahead. Now what are the different types of literals which are provided by C Sharp? So we have mainly integer, floating point, character, string, boolean, and null. These are the different types of literals which are there in C Sharp. So in this video we'll plan to complete integer type of constants or literals as well as floating point literals. In the further videos we'll have the remaining literals being covered. Okay, so let us see the first type of literals, that is integer literals. So integer literals are nothing but the tokens which represent an integer value. So I can have the natural numbers that we talk about, right? So let's say I can have positive integers, I can have negative integers, okay, and 0. Okay, so these are nothing but completely comprised of your integer literals. Okay, so it's nothing but the whole number completely, but also on the negative side. It's a number line that we talked about. So we can have different types of integer constants, that is decimal, octal, hexadecimal, and binary. If you look at the previous versions of programming languages, binary was never provided as a integer literal. These three were always there. But C Sharp also recognizes binary as the integer literals. Let's look at these types. So decimal is something which is represented directly without any prefix. So if suppose I take up some value, let's say 23. So I want to represent 23 int a equal to 23 in decimal, I will represent it directly. Whereas if I want to represent octal literals, then they are prefixed with 0. So when I say int a as 0 to 3, what I'm storing in a is a octal 23. So it's not 23 in decimal. What it will be in decimal? So if at all you just want to do the conversion, 8 and 1, so it will be 8 to the 16 plus 1, 8 to the 16 plus 3, 19 in decimal. So this is how the octals are being stored. Okay. Next, suppose I want to store hexadecimal. Int a is equal to, so the prefix is 0x. So 0x23. So what I'm storing is hexadecimal. So let us see what is hexadecimal here. 16 and 1. So 16 to the 32 plus 3, 35. Which is actually getting stored. So suppose if you're getting this correctly, great. If you're not, that means you require to work with number systems. Okay, here I have not taken this in detail. I assume that you at least have a prior knowledge. But don't worry, if you don't have, you can check my playlist of programming in C or the C programming videos, and there you will see one complete video is given or dedicated on number system. where I try to explain the number system, the concept, the conversions and so on. So if you go through these set of videos, you'll be able to get it very easily. Now let's look at binary. So suppose I store something in binary. Now binary I'll not be able to write 23 because binary does not support 2 and 3. It supports only zeros and ones. So I have to say 0b, as you can see. So if you have observed the prefix so far, for decimal it was nothing, for octal it was 0, for hexadecimal it is 0x, and for binary it is 0b. So if at all put 0b and 1101. Okay, so what it is, let's see. 1101 8421. So 8 plus 4 12 plus 1 13. So that is what I have stored inside if you convert that to decimal. So this is how wonderfully we have integer literals, and the 4 subtypes are also supported by C#, that is decimal, octal, hexadecimal and binary. Let's move on to next, floating point literals. So they are the literals which contain integer part, decimal point and fraction part. 57.382. This is integer part, this is the decimal point, and this is the fraction part. Now it can also contain an exponential part. So sometimes you may get to see something like this, 3.7 e let's say 03. You know what is that? That is actually 3.7 into 10 raised to 3, and you can understand now what is that. So it can also be stored in exponential part. We will see the two types of representations. It can be represented in either decimal form, which is this one, or it could be even in exponential form, which is this one. Which is this one. This is the interpretation. Okay, so floating point is with the fraction also along with the integer part, and two representations. Let's see. So decimal form is this. So if you want to convert this into a let's say this itself is converted. Let's see, you can see this is converted into exponential form. So this is 3.124056 into 10 raised to 2, which if you multiply actually it will be 312.4056. Okay, it could be even smaller version also. So I can have 0.0000000347. So this is nothing but, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 3.47 into 10 raised to minus 7, which we cannot write. So how do we write is 3.47 e minus 7. This e could be capital E or small e. Okay, remember one thing very important, that by default any floating point is considered to be double. Okay, so for example, if I say 5.8, it will be double. So you will surprise when you see something like, okay, if you write like this, perfect. But try writing like this, float x equal to 5.8, and it will give you error because you are trying to store double into float. Then we have a concept of typecasting and all those things where you can typecast 5.8 to float, and that can be stored. This is all will rather be there when we look at typecasting in more detail. Something which has to be taken care of is a, by default, if you see a fraction, as I said 5.37, whatever, it will be considered by default as double and not float. Okay, so that's the basic concept of floating point constants. Fine, so before I say thanks, what we have done in this video is we have understood what is literals. So they are nothing but constants, they don't change the value. Two types, that is user defined and existing. We said we'll be focusing more on existing here. We had seen the 6 different types of literals provided by C#. Out of that, first two, that is integer and floating point, we have done in detail. Okay, as I said, we'll have further videos which will cover the remaining part or remaining types of literals as we go along. Okay, so that was it for the current video. Thanks a lot and wish you a very happy learning.